we're going to talk about living, actual living in Cebu as opposed to living on an island somewhere. And the way I'm going to go about this.
Sorry, sir, but this table is reserved for high-ranking players.
Hold on a moment.
My power is at 5 million.
The way I'm going to go about this is to just describe, well, first of all, how to get to Cebu from Bohol, and to probably save you could be hours at the boat port. That would be number one. So one thing about the Philippines that is consistent throughout the Philippines is that the information you get on the internet could be as much as 7 or 8 years old. They have this terrible habit of not removing misinformation. For instance, the boat port, when you go to buy your ticket from Bohol, it says you buy your tickets at the boat port. And the ticket office for years has been right next to where the boats launch from. Well, that's no longer the case. And there's no update that the ticket office is actually 1,700 feet from where the boat is. So if you ask the cab or tricycle driver to drive you to the boat to Cebu, they did not offer me the information that you have to buy the tickets before you get to the boat. But tricycle drivers know this, but they don't offer information. Now, had I asked him, maybe he would know, but they don't offer you information. But on the site, there's no update that the ticket office has been changed. So that's standard in Bohol and also in Cebu. The actual ticket office in Bohol is 1,700 feet away from where it was. So you get dropped off at the boat launch area with 3 or 4 people in suitcases, and you want to buy tickets to go to Cebu. Well, each person has to go to the ticket office. So now you have to take a cab or a tricycle back to the boat office, to the ticket office, show them identification for each person, and then take a tricycle or a cab back to the boat. Or your other options are, if you have luggage, walk your luggage 1,700 feet back and forth. That's not a good option. In Cebu, it's the same thing. It's the same thing. The ticket office is about 900 to 1,000 feet away from the boat port. That's been the ticket office for many, many years. However, there's another ticket office that used to be the ticket office right next to the boat port. So when you go and tell the trike driver or hobble motorcycle driver, I want to go to Tagbilaran, they'll drop you off at the ticket office 1,000 feet away from the boat port, because that's been the ticket office for many years. There's no update on the website about this. So had there not been someone in front of the ticket office, I would have gotten off and then had to walk 1,000 feet to the old ticket office from years ago, which is now open. This is one of the setbacks about living in the Philippines. There's no notice on their websites that the ticket office has changed. But if you mention it to the ticket office personnel, they will say, "Did you check Facebook?" No, I didn't check Facebook because I want to buy a ticket at the ticket office for the boat. So you have to check Facebook. I don't know if it's on Facebook or not, but that is one of the things they do here in the Philippines. They say the first thing that comes to their mind, where in theory there should be an update on Facebook. But so in order to buy a ticket to go from one island to the other. No longer do you go to the ticket office. You go to Facebook to find out where the ticket office is. That's not reasonable. There's such a thing as reasonable. That's not reasonable. So that happened to me. And I had to walk, or I could have took a hobble. And I missed the first boat because of that. So I had to wait about an hour, just about an hour. Had the ticket office been open, I could have got on the 6:20 boat, but it wasn't, so I had to get a 7:05 boat. So moving past that, let me check the comments. Mika, good job. Good job the other day. I can see what kind of guy you are, Mika. Mika is an instigator, but on a professional level. He likes to ask personal questions to get you going, but he only does it to get you going. He doesn't do it because he wants the information. He does it to instigate. And he was doing that to Big Kev Media the other day, asking Big Kev all kinds of personal questions, like when Kevin's knee blew out, did that hurt? Well, that's pretty painful, Mika. Moving back to the benefits of living in Cebu. For me, none, zero. I lived in Cebu once before, but there are benefits to living in a big city. However, we're going to also talk about another concept that the people in the Philippines don't understand. They don't understand when you ask them a question and how much trouble it's going to be based on their response. And they don't care. That's my point. They don't care. So before I went to Cebu, I have a landline that I can call up sneaker stores. I wanted to buy sneakers. The boots I have work fine, but I wanted to buy sneakers. So you call up, I may have made, last year, Daisy made 50 or 60 phone calls. A few days ago, I made, 25 phone calls, roughly, because each store has a telephone number, but 50% of the telephone numbers on the internet in the Philippines don't work anymore. So calling up a phone number doesn't necessarily get you to the store. So I would ask them, all right, do you have a size 13 in Sandugo sneakers? Yes, sir, we have. Sandugo store, J Mall, Sandugo Sales, Pacific Mall, Sandugo Sales, whatever mall I called up. Yes, sir, we have. So I went there based on the fact that they have the sneakers. But when you get to the store, they tell you out of stock. But they say it with such confidence that you get on a boat, take a tricycle or a hobble, go to the store in the Ayala Mall, go to 4 stores, 5 stores in the Ayala Mall that said they have size 13 sneakers, but they don't have size 13 sneakers. They have size 12. Size 13 is out of stock. This is a common denominator in the Philippines. The people that answer the phone, salespeople in general, they never want to admit that they don't have what you want, with the understanding in the back of their head that if you come there, you may purchase something. And they don't care how much trouble it is for you to get to the store. So for me, I spent 4 hours running around looking for those sneakers. Several of the stores said they had size 13. One store had a size 13, but it was a small cut. Nobody has size 14, so that you have to get online. So it wasn't a wasted day because I had other stuff to do. But my point is that no matter where you go in the Philippines, the person answering the phone may or may not tell you the truth, whether they have the stuff in stock. Dennis Adam, thanks for stopping by, Dennis. I sent you a message this morning. So they don't necessarily have the stuff in stock, which is why I had to go to Cebu in the first place. I ordered some things that were hard to get. And the fella, after looking for these things for almost 9 months, I can have those on the counter tomorrow morning. So I sent him a deposit. And as it turns out, the parts were correct. But had I paid for them in advance and he shipped them to me, I might have trouble getting my money back. And they were not inexpensive parts. So it's better to go hands on when you order some sort of custom item, whatever it is. It's better to go to the store, see the product. Try not to pay for stuff in advance anywhere in the Philippines because they have a policy. No refunds, no cash refunds. So if you buy something and take it home and it doesn't fit, sometimes they'll take it back and give you credit, store credit. But that's typical of the Philippines, no cash refunds. That could be problematic. It happened to me last year. I spent quite a bit of money on parts, took them home, took them to a machine shop. The machine shop said the parts won't fit, brought them right back to the automotive dealer, and they gave me credit, but they would not give me a refund an hour later. That's a big setback living in the Philippines. So don't try not to pay for stuff unless you're absolutely sure it's the items that you want, they fit, they're the right size, they're the right weight. Try not to do that because they have a policy here. They don't like to give you cash back, and it says it on the bottom of most of the receipts. Now, Mika is right. The Philippines people always want to save face. They will lead up to the garden path rather than tell the reality. That's true. They never want to admit they don't have something or they don't know something. It's a commonality here. It's not the abstract, it's the common factor. If you ask somebody for directions and they have no idea at all where you want to go, they'll give you directions to somewhere that's not where you want to go. Not what you asked for. I have many videos. I can see the jeepney terminal from where I'm standing. And as an experiment, I would ask the people, do you know where the jeepney terminal is? And they will tell you it's that way, 2 kilometers. And I'm standing here looking this way at the jeepney terminal. They will refuse to say, I don't know. I'm not sure. Now, moving on to transportation in Cebu. When you get to the port, you're going to be hounded. This is their job by cab drivers and motorcycle operators at the exit to the port. I mean, right at the exit, there might be 8 or 10 people that have cabs and motorcycles or a van. When you say to them, if you say to them how much in English, the price just doubled. It doubled because they know you're not a local and you don't know the prices. So, for instance, I wanted to go someplace that was just under 3 kilometers away. So by cab to the Ayala Mall is about 125 pesos with no traffic. And that's about 6-7 kilometers, roughly. The place I wanted to go was 3 kilometers, maybe 4. The price for the cab was 500 pesos. So I said, no, I want you to use a meter. No meter, sir. Set price. That's if you speak only English. Now, if you say to them pila, P-I-L-A, pila, 4 kilometers, now the price goes down to about 300 because you understand that one word. Pila means how much? 300. Now, 300 is still twice what it should cost. So you say no, and they walk away. They say, okay, only 300. But if you say to them, pila, and they say 300, and you come back with a counter offer of 200, only 200 I give you, only 200. They will immediately go to 250, and they're very happy with the 250 price. But their initial price was 500 pesos because you don't understand that one word pila or any words in Visaya. So if you can get them to think that you live here and understand, or say, look, Ayala is 7 kilometers, only 150. You want 500 to go 3 kilometers. They understand that, and they'll work with you on the price. But they try to get double or triple what the ride is worth. So that's a big setback when you're traveling around the Philippines, because cab drivers and trike drivers and hobble drivers will typically, if you say how much, will typically double or triple the price. Now, another thing that you should never do, never, ever, 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 never, ever, ever, never, ever, never, ever get onto a motorcycle, hobble, a trike, or a cab without finding out the price first. Or if it's a cab, telling them you want a metered ride. But when I went to the city, no cab driver, none, zero. Even though they had meters in their car, they refused to give you a metered ride, which I don't know if it's allowed or not allowed. And that was not the point of the conversation. The point of the conversation is they don't want to use the meter because they can charge you any price that they choose for your ride. So my ride by meter would have been 80 to 90 pesos, roughly 100 pesos, let's say. They started out at 500. I settled at 250. What you never want to do is get into the cab and not ask them how much, because when you get to the destination, if your ride should have been 250, which is what I settled on, they'll tell you 500, and you're obligated to pay them what they ask. So always negotiate your price first before you get in the cab. Now, as far as moving around Cebu, it's much faster to use a cab and cooler than a jeepney. I won't, it's very, very hot in the city during daylight hours. But during rush hour, if you use a cab, they'll tell you 500 or 600 pesos because there's an hour and a half of traffic. So I used a motorcycle, a hobble. And that fella came up with a reasonable price right from the get-go. I said, Pila? He said, 150, $3. I said, let's go. But he saved, I was at the boat port in 22 minutes. Had I taken a cab like I did to the place I came from, Pacific Mall area, it was an hour and a half to get there, 90 minutes almost. So a motorcycle is a lot faster than a cab, and that would be an option for you. I don't like using motorcycles, but to save an hour and a half, I needed to get home. I was tired. So there's a lot of things that are benefits to living in a big city. Like you can get stuff that you can't get in Bohol or the outlying islands. However, when I went to the store that sold Sundugo or Adidas I asked them, do you have a size 13? On the phone, they said yes. In the store, they said out of stock, which means they never had it. But I know Adidas makes a size 13. So I said, look, I will pay you to order. No, sir. No, sir, we cannot order. So ordering something from the company they do business with typically is not an option. So that's something else you should bear in mind. If they don't have it in stock, I've never been able to order anything in advance. They just don't do that. And one more thing that I wanted to talk about was the prices. In the big city, for a part that I wanted in America, should have been between $30 and $50. That would be a reasonable price for the part. But it was impossible to find that part in America. And we tried. I had professional automotive mechanics that are friends of mine looked for the part. When I did find a part in Cebu, the price went up to 2.5 times the value of the part, but the guy could have it the next day. So, in the big city, if you find what you want, you're going to pay a little more because they have a much higher rent than they do in the outlying areas. So that price of 2.5 times is reasonable considering the fact that they have a big overhead for a storefront on a main highway. So that you're going to have to get used to paying more for your products when you go to the city. And as far as what you can buy in the big city in Cebu, pretty much anything you want. Computer parts are pretty much on the shelf now that the lockdown has ended. Everything is on the shelf. So I purchased some things, a drive for the computer. Typically in Bohol, I would pay for this drive about 9,000 pesos. And in Cebu, I paid 7,000 pesos. So I saved 2,000 pesos or fare to and from Cebu. Electronics are a little bit cheaper than in Bohol, and that's a big plus. And they have more options to buy. So there's a lot of benefits, but living in Cebu itself, moving to a new topic, Red Horse. Hey, thanks for stopping by. Those shoes you sent me, Red Horse. I love those water shoes. Red Horse sent me a pair of Keen, Keen water shoes that you can walk in the ocean with, and the sand goes in and out of your feet. Very high quality shoe. Thanks, Red Horse. Appreciate that. Now, living in Cebu, would I live there? No, I would not. Now, in the streets of Cebu, everywhere you go, you're going to see dust kicked up from behind a car or a truck out of stock, sir. That's right, baby. That's what they tell you. So the dust it's like a gray dust. And what that dust is, let me tell you what that dust is. It's particulates of gray water from overflowing street sewers. So when the street sewers overflow and the cars go through the water, they drag the water all over the street. When the sun hits that tarmac and dries up the water, the particulates in the water turn into dust. Well, those particulates were just in someone's restroom, CR, bathroom. They just came out of somebody's bathroom an hour before. So the particulates that you see as gray dust on the street is literally gray water, or in some cases, in the North Reclamation area, solids. You need to understand that when you see dust in the streets of Cebu and Bohol, this happens in Bohol as well. Not so much anymore because they put new sewers in Bohol, but there used to be quite a bit of dust on the streets. That dust is dried septic water, and whatever's in or was in your bathroom an hour ago is now being masticated on the street, dried out by the sun, and turned into dust. Never more predominant than in the North Reclamation area, because the dust will go from the street right up the curb like this, right up the curb. So the curb could be 6 or 8 inches high, and the dust is right up on the street. If there's a puddle, that puddle of water in the North Reclamation area, rest assured, it's septic water. Now, a mask is advisable if you're going to be walking around in that area or any area where you see dust on the street. Now, higher up elevations near Ayala and in further up higher than that, the septic water flows downhill. The North Reclamation area is close to the river, where all that matter goes directly into the Bay of Bohol. All sewerage is simply flushed into a pipe, goes down through the pipe to a cut. That cut turns into a river about 30 to 40 feet, half a mile to a mile before it hits the ocean or the river or the bay. And then that goes directly into the bay. There is no sewage treatment plant anywhere in Cebu or Bohol. And that's why, even if you live in a beautiful place, like, for instance, the Estaca Bay Hotel, that's in Lapu-Lapu, I believe. It's a beautiful place. There's a lot of beautiful hotels. But if you look at the quality of the water in the immediate area around Lapu-Lapu or Mandawi or anywhere there's water, the particulate count for water that you should not swim in is mostly warnings, do not swim in the water today. Now, I don't know how it is the last year or so, but when I lived there and went back and forth there on a regular basis, and you check the bacteria count in the water around the Lapu-Lapu area, the water is not healthy to swim in. Basically, it's because of the discharge of septic water. And the discharge of septic water is not like a pipe. It could be 1 million gallons or 2 million gallons an hour. It looks like a river because that's what it is. It's a river of 1 million people flushing their toilets by the time it gets to the bay. So the water quality in and around the Cebu area, even 10 miles north or south of Cebu area, is not good to swim in. It doesn't matter if the water is clear, it matters the particulate count. So that's, if somebody has a question, I'll let you ask a question. And then I have other stuff that I want to do today. But I just wanted to talk about now, there is another option that I have really nothing to do with. If you're a night person, well, then that city, Cebu, or I guess Manila, if you're a night person and you go to bars, well, then that is a big advantage. That if that's your enjoyment, like we did this back in the 80s, the disco, and the 70s, discotheques and bars. I'm glad I got that out of my system because I don't do that anymore. I haven't been in a bar since really the year 2003. That was the last time I was inside a bar, and I worked at that bar checking ID. But if you're a night person, then I did pass a lot of places that looked like they were bars or discotheques. So that's an advantage to living in Cebu. And the other advantage is food, restaurants. There's a place that I go to when I go to Cebu when I visit friends called 101. It has a great buffet for under 1,000 pesos. Much better than anything you're going to get in Bohol. So, and there's probably 6 or 7 places like that in the city. So you have options to go out to dinner. Like I need a buffet. I don't think so, but it's something to do when you go out with friends. There's nothing else to do there. There's no boat ride that I would want to take. There's no sightseeing in Cebu City proper. There's some stuff up the road, 50 miles up the road, that may be interesting to some people. I've been as far as Conciliation, I think it is, which might be 35 miles from the city. And I wouldn't even go in the water there. However far Conciliation is, could be 20 miles. It's about a 40-minute jeepney ride, so it could be 20 miles. I wouldn't go in the water there either. The water was just the gray water from the houses. You could see a river coming down the side of the mountain. Like everywhere you walked, every 300 or 400 feet, there was a cut in the mountain and water just flowed down. That's septic water. So I wouldn't even go in the water 20 miles from the city on one side of the city. On the side of the city where they have the whale sharks, that water is pretty clean around Oslab because the water's coming in from the ocean. But when it comes in from the ocean, it goes past the city. The water is not so clean, not good for scuba diving, that's for sure. So there are no questions. I'll say goodbye. I have things to do. Red Horse, Dennis, thanks for stopping by. Miko, keep up the good work. Miko, keep asking those tough questions. Miko is a professional instigator. Give Miko a thumbs up whenever you see him making. He's in there needling everybody. Needle, needle, needle. Needle, 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 Nico. Needle, Miko, needle, Miko. So that's all. Thanks for stopping by. I'll read make sure there's no more comments. Okay. He's a good needler. You should take up crochet. That's it for now. Of course, Amping Permi from the Philippines, baby. And Amping Permi means take care always. Bye-bye for now. Now, how do I shut the... there it is. Bye-bye. Amping. Adios.